Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce. We just had an amazing round one, opening round of the AFL 2023. Sauce, how'd you find it?
It was exhilarating, Pez. It was so good for not only to be able to watch all the games, the 9 games of the round, and the staggered start to 90% of the games, except for that Saturday, was great. But then actually going back to the footy, you talked about the $10.50 beers being an issue. Tell you what, they were not an issue at all.
Not an issue? Yeah.
Not an issue, but it was great for footy back. We had some really great storylines. We had, the perfect on Twitter, AFL. They had the top 10 moments of the round, and they were all fantastic. And there were a lot of returns. There were amazing players, big marks, great goals, huge
Amazing
bumps.
marks.
There was so much of footy encapsulated in a round of footy.
And some of the biggest bumps that I think I've seen in a while, where people left their feet and things like that, tribunals thrown out their things and gone from there. That's not our focus here, but the season also started with a draw, which is very rare.
Yeah, first time since 2011 that it started with a draw. So that was exciting. And, it's exciting that it was a draw, but geez, that was a dismal performance from both teams and an ugly brand of football. And you know what, Pez? It's not often after a game of footy that I sit there and go, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch another couple of these games if that's the way the brand has changed. But it was not to be. We had an absolute cracker on Friday night. It's definitely the game of the season. And then a lot of close encounters after that, comeback stories, big leads. We had a couple of thumpings, which you're going to get in AFL, but overall pretty good.
You had a couple of adjustments at halftime from some teams, and they really came out in that third quarter. And run-ons were a thing. And I don't think as an AFL club, you should get 5+ goals kicked on you in a row in the span of about 10 minutes. And that happened to a couple of sides on the weekend. So a lot of adjustments to happen during the week from coaches, a lot of different things to go on there. So we put our bets out there. We're everywhere. So at Behind the Bound, Twitter, TikTok, been getting a lot of comments and things like that, which is amazing. So continue to do that.
There's more banter on TikTok than there is in this room. A couple of keyboard warriors out there throwing a little bit of shade.
Oh, I love it. A couple of things and a couple of comments, X-rated as well. So
I know.
very good to listen to that.
They've moved off the holes in the teeth and the holes in our bets. What's coming up instead?
It's unbelievably good and good stuff. So at Behind the Bound there on TikTok, a couple of clips will go out each week, and you can give us a little bit of banter on there. And it's always easy hindsight after you throw out a bet and say, you know what, that actually lost. So after the bet loses, people can come on and talk all they want. But if you want to disagree with us before the game actually happens, you get some more credibility as well. So
you definitely do. And one thing we don't do is we don't go onto Twitter or Instagram and we don't delete these videos. They're up there for the world to see. We have our accountability built into our spreadsheet. And at the end of the day, we trust our system, we trust our knowledge, and we trust the results that we've had in the last 5 years. We've been turning around profit, and this year will be no the same. It's always fun to start off, as you just said. It's everyone loves a comeback story.
Yeah, well, let's talk about how we started off. A bit of a review.
Soft review. It's no official review. How does it end? We don't know. They've kind of lost, but they've won as well.
I had a bet in the first game of the season, and I was so excited for the AFL to start. It was Richmond-Carlton. I had Richmond to win and over 141 points. That didn't get anywhere near it with a draw being 58 all, so it was only 116 total. So I was way off the pace there. I thought there could have been a lot more scoring in that first quarter, but it wasn't to be. Richmond were 1 goal for, and Carlton just were bombing it inside 50. So not to be there. Carlton were also in a position to win at the end of the game and just couldn't get it done. 17 seconds left on the clock of that final bounce after Tom Lynch kicked the goal and made it a 58 all draw.
Yeah, good to start off with a draw, and disappointing to start off with a win. You would have taken a draw in that one, Pez. It wouldn't have been a loss.
Yeah, and interesting enough, the 1 to 39 market, I noticed, you've got 1 to 39, you've got 40 plus, and they actually pay on the draw now. You know how they took the draw out of head-to-head, ML betting?
Yes.
The draw's only $19 though on that market. There's 5 different markets and the draw's $19. And usually if there's a draw and the bookies have that, they clean up on that game. So that's what they did on Thursday night.
They definitely would have. It's good. The house always wins. If you're looking at roulette, they've got the little 0 and the 00, and that's the AFL's or the sports bets and sports agencies' way to do it. So I didn't have a bet in the second game, either did you. We head on to the North Melbourne versus West Coast, and I was really, really confident with this one, saying that North Melbourne, the minus 0.5 in the first quarter, was an absolute shoe-in, and North Melbourne at the plus 16.5 was a guaranteed lock at 205. So I walked away with a win, but it was a nervous first quarter.
Yeah, you had to have a little bit of a comeback. You were there and you were comfortable for a bit, and it was just hung on by the solitary point. And after that, it was pretty cruisy going because you had that 16.5 buffer. So nice start with the $2.05 odds and the double and a little bit of your money.
Exactly right. And I was feeling pretty good up until about the third quarter in the next game. I had 2 bets in this one, Port Adelaide versus Brisbane. I had plus 16.5 and the over 162.5, as well as minus 10.5. Pairs, I believe you had a bet in the game as well.
Yeah, I was confident in this. I just went at the line, Brisbane minus 1.5. I thought they were a good showing. I had Port Adelaide rated down a little bit from where they showed on the weekend. So this game, Port Adelaide dominated early, and Brisbane were able to come back. They led by 3 goals heading about a minute into half time, and then Port Adelaide kicked a goal right at the end of that second quarter. It was 12 points, and then I listened to the third quarter with optimism and hope. I was confident that Brisbane were going to, just get the job done in that second half, and Port Adelaide just went bang. 7 goals within about, it felt like 10 minutes. It was just the commentary. Brisbane hardly even touched the footy, and led by Jason Horne-Francis in that third quarter.
Yeah, the Hornets, not wrong about that, Pez, them not touching the footy. They had 100 less possessions than the AFL average from this round, and almost 170 less possessions than Port Adelaide. So they just didn't allow Brisbane to get the pill. And, you're not going to hear us sit here and make excuses. We totally misread the game. We totally misread Port Adelaide specifically. And I think Brisbane, I guess, still the team that we believe them to be, but off to a slow start. But as we said, we maybe read a little bit too much into preseason.
Yeah, that round one little hoodoo, maybe not to go against home teams and things like that, but we'll read something again in the future, and you've got to go with your reads because that's what's made us money in the past. So we lost out on there. The next game that I had was the Saturday night, Melbourne versus the Bulldogs. I gave them a little bit of a head start, which they didn't need, plus 5.5 and over 147.5, which sailed through quite easily as well. So very comfortable win there at $1.86. So I'll take a little bit of profit.
Yeah, you love that one. I had in the next game, the GWS versus Adelaide, a loss. This was a tale of two halves, Pez, because Adelaide looked all over GWS early. They were dominating. GWS had a couple of injuries, went down, bang, bang, bang in the first quarter. No Kelly. They had a range of injuries, cramping late in the quarter. And then in the second half, they just absolutely dominated, and they came over the top and ran over the top of Adelaide. So it was a disappointing loss, but escape with a bonus bet with the sports bet special for the round. But an odd game, and I guess a real testament to, I probably had it wrong in this one, Pez, because I did say that, there was going to be 60 fans, and I think there was only 7 fans there. So, I misread the bet.
There was 8,000 and something, according to the AFL.
Bullshit. Where were they hiding? Where were they hiding?
That feels a third of the capacity of the stadium, apparently. There was only the red seats.
There was over 300,000 at the MCG alone, and then there's 8 measly at, what is it, what do they call it?
Giant Stadium,
Stadium?
Is it still that? But sure. Rankine had a beautiful debut, except he couldn't kick straight, and 2 goals 5, he was involved in a lot early. They kicked 4 goals 9 in the first quarter, absolutely dominant. But that third quarter was where it's at. GWS 6 goals to only 2, and then the last quarter 5 goals to 2. And GWS run over the top, 16-point winners, and you would have been really, really happy at halftime, even a little bit during the third quarter, and it was just GWS go, no.
Listening to it in the car in the last quarter, and it was just, there was Tex Walker gave away this weird blocking free kick in the middle of the ground when they were running up, and that was the end of them. They GWS piled on another 3 goals from there, and all over Red Rover. But
head to the MCG on Sunday, and it was Hawthorn versus Essendon, the traditional rivals, and Hawthorn put up a little bit of a fight early, but Essendon just went absolutely bang and showed how poor Hawthorn's list is actually going to be and how poor of a team Hawthorn will be this year. Short favourites now for Wooden Spoon, I would imagine, and Essendon not being, the best list themselves. Jake Stringer wasn't playing, things like that. Had it, but the moment of the day there was Tip and Woody with coming on as the sub and kicking a goal after being away from the game with mental health. So Essendon get a win, They sit on top of the ladder with with the amount that they did.
Could make it 2 weeks in a row with the Gold Coast coming up as well.
Yeah, we'll see how they can travel against them. But I had one unit on that. I had Essendon -3.5 and over 141.5, and that was paying 205. So I'll take that win. And did you have any other bets for the day?
Yeah, I had a late punt on Wednesday night last week, St Kilda versus Fremantle. I had Fremantle -10.5 and the over 143.5 pairs. And I really don't even know what I was doing in this one because the 10.5 should have been a pretty easy sort of win. Fremantle were absolutely dismal. And they were playing a Ross Lyon side who, when we talked about it, we said that they were going to play a more offensive brand of footy. And I was excited for that because I thought that they were going to turn it over heaps and it was going to mean there was going to be more scoring and go over the alternate line. But yeah, I should have believed in the Ross Lyon game plan because it was under. I had a mug punter online. He tweeted saying, I loved the bet until I realised it was Ross Lyon. And as soon as he said that, I thought, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I really misread that one.
So a bit of a stuff up there.
A bit of a stuff up there. I looked at my numbers and I don't know what I've done, but I'll wear the loss. So a bit of a loss there. Get my money back in a bonus, though, this week. I can guarantee you that.
Bonus City this week for you, Sauce. It was 4 goals in the last quarter, 4 goals, 1 to St Kilda, to 4 behinds for Fremantle. So it was defended well. St Kilda weren't even that efficient with some of their players. Some of their players went at 50% efficiency by foot. It was just the way they defended as a team.
And I mean, they had two goals off 50-metre penalties, and they had 5 goals in total for the game off just dumb Fremantle turnovers. And yeah, you capitalised on Freo's mistakes.
Can't afford to do that if you're Fremantle. You need that away win.
You need that away win against a poor side.
You're looking to go. Aspirations should be top 4, even if people don't believe that. But they should be making the 8 at least, and that's a costly one for them at the start of the year.
That's a freebie. You had 16 of your best 22 on the injury list. That is a freebie for Fremantle, playing a depleted St Kilda away, and we're going to harp on about this, but that's a really disappointing, and they were easily the biggest loser of this weekend.
All right, so we'll take what we learned, take that information out. I staked 5 units in total, Source, for the round. I lost 1.09 units overall, so 2 bets out of 4. That's what I lost for an ROI of -21.8%. So I sit a little bit behind the 8 ball to start the season, and we climb our way back in round 2.
We do. I staked 5 units for the round, a profit loss of, just a loss really, of -2.95 units and an ROI of -59%. But luckily, three bonus bets, which I'm going to get through those this week and get back on the winners board.
Yeah, well, you better in our bet slip.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Our bets with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I said,
Oh, yes! Yes! Yes!
All right, we're straight into the bet slip. We're going to do the top 3 specials of the round from our bookmakers.
Cyril takes a special and goes bang.
Yeah, I don't even know if we need to do the top 3 because
there's only one.
There's only one to talk about. It's the sports bet special. They brought it back for round 2. I've got my alternate account sorted out this week, so I'll be able to take advantage of that as well. So it is you place a bet, has to be 2 or more legs. Minimum odds of $2, and if it loses, so even if both legs lose, all legs lose, you just get a free shot and you get a free bonus bet back to try and win your stake back or try and win whatever you'd like back. So that's where you need to be. That's the special, and I don't even know if we need to go through the others.
You probably need to speak about Blue Bets, the 12-plus special, because if you'd backed that in 3 of the 4 games last week, Geelong would have paid out, you would have had Adelaide pay out, and you would have had Brisbane pay out as well. So, if you can do that and you don't like it in a little bit of insurance, it's a good way to play it. I don't think it's worth doing it. I had a person tweet me during the week about saying that they should just put it on put it both ways and put it on the high amount and just hope that they win. But if you're thinking a team's going to lead it at half time, you'd be better to look at your plus-minus line and get a little bit of insurance rather than stake it for a hopeful of paying out.
Because their odds are higher. Yeah. Just go and hope they lead at half time.
Exactly right. Do your plus-minus.
Probably not the way to bet. If you're going to bet head-to-head, you kind of want to bet on who you think will actually win the game, and then they're more likely to be up at halftime anyway. Probably the third one for those of you banned from promos at Sportsbet is you've got a 3+ leg same game multi at Ladbrokes. So One loses, you get bonus bet back up to $50. So you can head there if Sportsbet is that way inclined.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Sportsbet are very innovative, isn't it? It's like the third year in a row that they've come up with a new sort of special. They had the lead at first quarter payout.
That was the best
the
one.
best
ever.
one. They invented basically the 3-leg same game multi bonus back, and now they've gone with this one, and it'll be interesting to see what comes after this.
It's just everyone is going to put their money in with them, so they're smart. They're doing their business model. They want people to bet with them. They want to give them the bonus bets back because usually it ends back up in their pockets anyway.
And despite them always having probably the lowest about the odds, and if you're looking for possession wise, they've basically got all their markets for the under and over alternate lines suspended. Of anything, plus 200 or under 99. But anyway, let's get into the Thursday night game pairs, and we love Thursday night footy. Carlton taking on Geelong. Both teams have not registered a win for the season. Carlton are the favourites. The outsiders at $2.45. Geelong favourites $1.53. The line is minus 11.5, and the over/under total game points 167.5.
Yeah, the big one here is the injury to Tom Stewart. He's going to miss. And Carlton's forward line, they're pretty good because they have the clear advantage down there over the Geelong backmen. I think Radigalia played a little bit back down there and took some intercept marks. So I expect
10 intercept marks.
I expect him to be back there, floating between Big Mackay and Charlie Curnow as well. Carlton, just again, they're in a winning position. Against Richmond, MCG, low-scoring game, and they just couldn't close it. Their inside forward 50 entry last week, Source, was some of the worst I'd seen. It's like they were trying to hit the moon before they wanted to give advantage to their forward line. And because of that, and because of the Radigalia intercept factor, I think that Geelong's midfield will, take over. I think it will still be a close game, and I can't steer anywhere without this sports bet bonus for this week. So I've put a lock in for this week. I've gone Geelong 1-39, and interestingly enough, by itself on Sportsbet is $2.12. I add in Geelong ML because I need 2 legs, and the odds go down to 205. So I lose 7 cents because I want to have that same game multi-insurance. So Sportsbet, a little bit sneaky, a little bit clever on their part to be able to do that. So Geelong 1-39 and Geelong to win. Obviously, they both happen anyway if that happens. So $2.05, I'll put a unit on that.
Yeah, I like this one. I totally agree with what you said. I like the with Tom Stewart going out, you're a little bit worried about how they're going to shuffle around the ground. They debut Jack Bowes. I think he'll fit nicely into that. But big outs for Carlton. George Hewitt, he was probably one of their best last week. He's out. He's injured. So they're going to have another injury. And
no Sam Walsh. Yep.
No Sam Walsh either. So, another obviously big part of what Carlton are trying to build down there. I like Geelong in this one, not because I'm a Geelong supporter. I just think that it hasn't been since 2008 that the reigning premiers have lost the first two. 2008, obviously, the year after that, was Hawthorn. They're the first team, and then they had the decline. I don't think Geelong is at that decline. I really like Geelong in this one. I think that realistically they should be sitting about $1.70, $1.80. They played a very good brand of football, and they just ran out of legs against Collingwood. They controlled a lot of the defensive push. They had some inside 50s. They were able to control the defense. I like the matchup of Geelong's back to be able to combat Carlton's forwards. And what I like about it is my metrics all point to the under pairs. So I've gone a 2-leg same game multi with Sportsbet. Geelong under 172.5, and Geelong just the win 1 unit. That gives me $2.40, and I've locked 1 unit on that.
There you go, both with a bet tomorrow night. So exciting viewing for the start of round 2.
That is right, Pez. All right, speaking of exciting viewing, we head over to the Gabba Friday. Brisbane taking on Melbourne, $1.96 to outsiders are Brisbane to $1.84. That has come in a little bit, Pez. Start of the week, you could have got $2.15 for Brisbane. It slid in literally 20 minutes before the show to $2, and now it's down to $1.96. So there is some mail that must be going out there that are making the lines shorten. Minus 1.5 is the line, and the over-under total game points, 170.5, Pez. Brisbane, they were absolutely terrible last week. We spoke about how we misread Port Adelaide. We both said that Melbourne were going to win. They did in easy fashion. Can Brisbane bounce back after last week?
Well, this is the thing, and it's a real unknown at the moment. But Friday night, absolutely massive game. Brisbane let down their fans, something shocking last week, especially in that second half. And as I said before, no AFL team should let 5+ goals in a row go, especially 7 on your head. You need to make adjustments, and players need to do that on the field. I think the effort needs to be there because Melbourne mids, if you watched on Saturday Night Source, the defensive running and the effort that they put in to stop the Bulldogs was next to nothing. They should be a top 4 team this year. They really, really impressed me with the way they ran when they didn't have the footy. And Brisbane were quite the opposite last week. Melbourne have taken care of Richmond in the last 5 games at 4 different grounds, if you don't mind. So, including Metricon Stadium during those COVID years and things. There's some floggings in there, and Melbourne actually tore Brisbane up last year at the G as well. Brisbane need to bring some heat and some heart if they want to compete in this game. Yes, they can win it. They are the home team, so I'm not going to bet against them. I'm going to leave this game alone. I'm just going to watch for the effort of those Brisbane midfielders because they need to run both ways and they need to run without the footy.
Yeah, it's there's no reason for you to look at the analytics from last week, and there's any way that you can tip Brisbane in this. You know, all the stats across the comparisons for the season that they lose. You know, the only thing that they win was meters for slash disposal, which was 19.8, and the goal accuracy was at 73%, which is fantastic, but not when you only have 40 inside 50s. So you look at Melbourne in comparison, who dominated Western Bulldogs. All your stats are going to point to Melbourne in this one. But Pez, you know, we spoke at the preseason. We spoke about Brisbane. We spoke about them being building a fortress at the Gabba. You know, they've won 39 of the last 4 years, the last 3 years in 39 of the last 2 years in the Gabba. They are an absolute dominant side there. They're not going to be losing 2 in a row here. They'll address a lot of those the deficits they had last week. I'm locking in, Pez, for 2 units, and I am backing my numbers. Brisbane will bounce back in this one. I have gone Brisbane, the straight-up win, and the under 198.5. I have this game being about 170. The bookies have it about 182, and I like this. So 2 units with Sportsbet. $2.15. I am bouncing back and doubling up from last week.
Doubling down. If Brisbane let Source down again, watch him cross them off his list, off the radar. He is very, very confident. So if that little clip there makes it on TikTok their Source, you could be copping some heat this week.
I will be copping some heat, I'm sure, just like I did last week. But I think Pez, you know, quite often what people do sometimes is they have round 1 reactions and they just jump off teams. You know, there's anomalies along the way there. You look at the last couple of years, if we jumped off Geelong last year when they lost to Adelaide in round 1, well, there's a completely different story, isn't it? But you got to back the numbers. Brisbane at home is a good side. Melbourne came out firing, but was that more that Western Bulldogs played poorly or Melbourne are going to be that good? We don't know. The bookies don't know because they've got it basically a break-even game. I like the value with the home team.
You take it or leave it. Then you come to probably the fans with the loudest voice in Collingwood next.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of loudest voice, we didn't get to speak about this in moments. One of the best moments from the actual live football game was Ollie Henry running into an open goal and getting tackled from Darcy Moore and getting absolutely smashed to the floor, and the Collingwood shout goes out. But what was even better, Pez, was that he kicks it literally straight to a Geelong, and the banter from the crowd was amazing. I heard blokes yelling out, "That's why we got rid of you." It's like, you tried everything in your power to keep him. And then I heard some Geelong blokes yell back, you know, "Oh, that's, you know, act like you've tackled before. He's a second-year player." And you're like, what? And then, you know, one guy stood up and turned around and was clapping. He's like, absolute theatre. And it was, Pez. That was one of the best moments of the round.
The atmosphere you feel from the TV is even insane.
Incredible.
And you're watching him go in and you're like, kick the bloody ball.
I was sitting right behind him and I'm like, seeing him coming. I'm like, kick it. Sounded like every 1980s supporter.
Yes,
kick the bloody thing. But it was, fantastic. But anyway, the noise will be bought in this one. Collingwood versus somewhat of a building arch rival with the prison bar discussion coming up again.
I reckon they'll wear it this week against them.
They've allowed them to wear it in their showdown. I think it's next week against Adelaide. But Collingwood taking on Port Adelaide. Collingwood are favourites at $1.54. Port Adelaide outsiders $2.50. Minus 10.5 is the line. Plus 170.5 the over-under, Pez.
Yeah, Collingwood, they just need to be able to capitalise here. But they beat the reigning premiers. There's a lot of hype around Collingwood now, and they just need to beat Port Adelaide at home. It's as simple as that. Ken Hinkley actually impressed me with what he did. I didn't think he was going to play his young midfield, which he did. Zach Butters in the middle. Jason Horne-Francis ran through there, and he didn't just go same old, which he's done over the last 3 years. He actually changed something up, and they were able to towel a midfield which finished in the top 4 last year in Brisbane Lions. So they showed speed and their forward line functioned well, but there was no fight from the Lions. We've got Darcy Moore down there who will help. Jeremy Howe with the broken arm or the very horrific injury, but they didn't even show it, a replay on the TV, which shows you how bad it is, because they've shown some horrible things in replays on TV before. But he's going to, sit in front of those Port Adelaide forwards, and I don't think they're going to get the ball as easily as they did last week, where there was a few traffic cones for the Lions defense. So I'll watch this game for interest. I think the Pies' weakness is actually going to be in the ruck. And it might be weird saying that, but Lysette will come over, and I think he'll have a dominant time in the ruck, depending if he can get those hit-outs to advantage, though, and advantage his midfield. And they've just got to kick it, not away from Darcy Moore, but they've got to be accurate when going forward. So I'm going to leave this game alone, watching with interest on Saturday, and Collingwood, for the fans' sake, they just need to win this game.
It'll be a really interesting one, this one, I think, Pez. We'll learn a lot about both sides. Is Collingwood going to be that side that they believe in, and they were last year, winning those close games and slowly progressing to top 4 side? Or is the Port Adelaide side that beat Brisbane, are they on their bounce back here? They seem to be doing this thing where they're 1 year good, 1 year poor, 1 year good, and they really have to, as you said, for Hinkley's sake. They've got the inclusion of Hornet going into that in their midfield. Rosie looks like he's an absolute star. Ollie Wines was back to his best. Last week they didn't even have Boak, and they absolutely dominated. If they can bring that intensity and they can bring that, as you said, that dominance in the ruck and be able to control the pill, they'll trouble Collingwood, because they are a fast-paced side. They do like to pump it in there lots. Charlie Dixon had the most inside marks last week in the whole competition. He looked in fighting form, and I don't know how they're going to be able to stop him. Geelong were very efficient in there when they got it into that forward line, and every time they got it into that forward line, they basically scored. The problem was that they weren't getting it in there. I don't know if the Collingwood defence will be able to stick up to the Port Adelaide. I'm leaning towards Port Adelaide at the value. But again, I'm going to leave this game.
Jeez, you're just going against all the people on TikTok, mate. They're going to be all over you.
Pez, I'm not taking a bet here. But if I'm looking at, I see this game as a very even sort of game. $1.90 both ways, my odds have it. So why wouldn't you go with the outsider? But I'm going to lean towards the outsider. No bet, very clearly, Pez. And stop throwing me under with TikTok.
We've just, it's a new thing at Behind the Bound over there if you want to follow along, and it's just very interesting viewing. So
I can give you the next one, Pez. I'm definitely on the favourite in the next game. We talk about the Adelaide versus Richmond game. Adelaide outsiders 235, and I won't be tipping them, Pez. Just give you the heads up. Richmond $1.60, 8.5 is the line, over under 173.5. Pez, I've already told you basically where I'm heading. Tell me where you're heading.
Yeah, well, this is a very similar position where they played last year. They played last year in round 5 at Adelaide Oval, and the Crows took Richmond down by 19 points in the end here. And I understand last week the Crows, they played in horrific heat, 35 degrees, if you will, and they're travelling back. So what effect will that have on them as well? I think the Tigers not winning last week and not stealing a victory really makes them hungrier to actually come out and really focus this week, travel away as a team together and try and get the win Saturday afternoon at the Adelaide Oval. The Tigers are very dangerous. I expect their ball use to be a lot better and lower their eyes a little bit and not bomb it forward, especially Taranto, who got a lot of the pill, and Hopper got a little bit of the pill, but their kicking was just a little bit off. So they'll be better for the week. I'm going to lock in a bet here with Sportsbet's bonus special. I just wanted to go Richmond at the line, -8.5. I think they're going to win comfortably by 3+ goals. And I had to add something else to get it to that $2.
Insurance?
So I've just put the 3/4 time leader.
Oh, 3/4. Any metrics behind, or just?
No, just to lead at 3/4 time, because if they are going to win by 9 points, they should have the lead at 3/4 time. I don't think that they're going to be trailing by 8 points and then come out and dominate the second quarter, especially for the line. So to back up my line bet, just lead at 3/4 time. Doesn't matter by a score. There's no line attached to it. It's an even $2. And if it loses, obviously, you get your bonus back with Sportsbet. So 1 unit on that as well.
Yeah, like that one. I totally agree with you. I think the Richmond are going to be too hungry for this one. You look last week when they played Carlton, and Carlton really, they escaped with a draw last week because they were pretty poor into that fourth quarter. Richmond should have won. They worked last week at 27% inside their 50 efficiency. And just for some scope on that, the league average is about 50%. Carlton went at 40% last week, and they escaped with a draw. There's no way Richmond do that. They stuff around with that in their forward line this week. They'll come out and they'll fire. I think the odds should be about $1.40 in this one, Pez. So I'm getting 20 cents at $1.60. I love that. So what I've gone is I've gone a 2-leg same-game multi with Sportsbet. For the insurance, I think that Richmond take the win straight up on the nose, and I've gone the under 173.5. I have this game sitting really low. I think that Richmond will go back to their defensive structures, and Adelaide will be quite conservative. We saw last week that they got a little bit reckless when they were going forward, and they rushed a lot of things, and they turned over and got scored against quickly. So I think both teams sort of shut this down. Richmond to try and build a nice, build to go back to their system, and Adelaide to try and make sure that they play a bit conservative and don't get blown out. That gives me odds of 287, and I've put one of my bonus units on that one, Pez, from last week.
So bonus bets, obviously, for the listeners. You don't get your stake back, but you do get whatever the odds are. So your stake multiplied by whatever the odds are, and then minus your stake back as well. So we'll calculate that in the spreadsheet. It'll be there ready to go.
And what I've done with the bonus bets, Pez, all my bonus bets, I've tried to make it so that I at least return my unit and a little bit extra. So I'm not putting anything down where I'm going to lose from last week, because if I'm going to lose a percentage, to me, I might as well not put the bet down. I might as well leave it as a loss last week, let the bonus bet burn. So you've got to try and win back your money. So you've got to try and get over those $2 odds and not just go for guarantees, because that's where they get you actually.
So, there you go. It's a free ride for you, and that's how you're going to use yours. Everyone can decide how they're going to use theirs as well.
Exactly right. Saturday night we go on to the Western Bulldogs taking on St Kilda, your team. $1.47 favourites are the Doggies, $2.70 outsiders the Saints. -12.5 is the line. Over under 162.5 pairs, and it's not even the lowest line of all the games here. But St Kilda play a slow and a low brand of footy with Ross Lyon back there. Pairs, you're leaning the under in this one.
Definitely. You can read me like a book after watching Ross Lyon's...
You loved it, Pez. You loved going back those glory days.
I don't mind. If it's your team and the football isn't the highest of quality, where have we been the last 3 seasons? We've been trying to play high-speed attacking footy. We haven't turned the ball over all the time. You're losing by 5+ goals. It's not fun as a fan.
Possession footy you love, do you?
Oh, low-scoring footy, if we've got an opportunity to win, I love it, especially with the amount of players that the Saints were missing on the weekend.
Pez.
Yeah, you get around Ross Lyon because he is after role players. And there's a couple of players, especially Jade Gresham. He does a couple of silly things sometimes, a little bit selfish, doesn't lower the eyes, get the player in the best position. You have to do that. He will highlight that straight away, first thing Monday morning. And if he doesn't do it, he'll be playing twos footy. It doesn't matter. He'll bring someone else in to do that role. So I'm leaning towards the under. I don't know how the Bulldogs, will go with scoring. It isn't Marvel Stadium, which it was last Sunday as well. But Aaron Norton has given the Saints a little bit of trouble in recent times. So the Saints need to play that team defense, keep the ball out of him. He's taken a couple of good pack marks last week. And no bet, no lock or anything. I'm leaning the under. I'm going to see how that line plays out and see if I lock anything in later in the weekend.
Yeah, it's a really tough, this one, because you ask the question, you're like, were St Kilda that much better with a defensive structure in place and, utilise... I mean, it's obvious that a structure has been put in place there. Or were Fremantle that poor that they allowed St Kilda to just be in the game? Then again, you look on the Western Bulldogs side, their experiment of the 4 tall structures were fine because they controlled the air, but they weren't aggressive enough. That didn't really work. They'll be without... sorry, they won't be without anyone. That was the other way around. Bailey Smith got knocked out, but he'll still be playing.
Well, they'll be without Lob, possibly.
Yeah, the big recruit Lob, exactly right. But it's about who you trust more in this one, and I don't trust either sides because I don't know what St Kilda are. And the Western Bulldogs, I think they're poorly coached, and you'll hear me say that all year round. I'd probably lean towards the Western Bulldogs, maybe the line at 12.5. because if they do get a hold of St Kilda, then they could get away with it. They've covered 8 of the last 9 lines, whereas St Kilda has failed in the last 10 to cover an actual line there. So that's where I'd probably be leaning. Of course, the under. You hit the under hard with the Ross Lyons side. But for me, it's a leave.
So learned your lesson from last week, but still going with the line, a couple of goal line against Ross Lyons Saints there.
I'm leaning towards. Let's be clear about this, Pez, because I got clipped up on TikTok the other day saying some stuff, and people thought we'd bet stuff, and I hadn't actually put a bet down. I was just analysing where there could be some possible value.
But sometimes you got to feed that, and there's a Collingwood video out there where we speak about them missing finals, and it might be a deliberate ploy to get people to watch and comment. So there you go.
If one way to hurt your feelings very quickly is to jump on social media, I'll tell you that much. Bloody hell. All right, let's get on to the other Saturday night match, an absolute blockbuster. Fremantle taking on North Melbourne. We head over to SBS Stadium. Pairs $1.17 favourites are the Dockers, $5.10 outsiders North Melbourne. Minus 29.5 Pairs is the line. Over under 157.5 Pairs. 2 in a row for North Melbourne. Kanga.
Sheasel, Brownlow medal. Get around him.
Tell you what, just quickly, he came in absolutely unbelievable for odds. Pre-season, you could have got him $17 for the Rising Star. He's come into about $3.35. So loving that.
Probably second favourite there.
He still is behind Ashcroft.
But yes, Sheasel played a good game of 34 disposals. But one player that really impresses me, Davis Uniacke. He's poised.
Has he been unlocked? Ooh.
He's poised. He can spin out of trouble. I know he's only playing against West Coast, but they've got some senior players still there. And just the way he was getting the ball inside 50, he found space, was able to kick a goal, and he just really did impress me. The ruckman there, Zeri, got injured early on.
He's disappointed. He's had a rough trot.
Yeah, they were still able to find a way to win, but you'd say Goldstein probably comes back in this week to play against Darcy, and Jackson, who was disappointing in his Fremantle debut last week as well. So Fremantle, really low odds, which they deserve to be, playing at home. North Melbourne, I think if we shorten the quarters down to 16 minutes, they'd be in with a shot to have a chance to win the game. But I think at the moment, with North Melbourne's list and how they travel, we saw it on the weekend on Saturday where West Coast came back. Their fitness, I don't think, is up to it for a full game of 120 minutes. So North might compete with Fremantle for a little bit, but it won't be for the whole 120 minutes, and Fremantle will come away with the win. Odds are too low. I don't love the line there for me at the moment, so I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, Pez. Fremantle, they need to bounce back. They need to be responsive, but they're a defensive-minded team, so the way that they respond is what they're going to lock the game down even more. Fremantle at home, you think it's an easy win. I think the line is way too high, sitting about 29.5 for a team that really struggles to score at the best of times against a young and up-and-coming side. I can't see them blowing it out. So I don't love that. The under, the bookies are all over the under, so I don't love that.
Like that.
Realistically, this is an absolute leave for this one, Pez, and I probably won't even change across the channel to watch it during the game because I don't think it's expecting to be a good viewing experience.
Yeah, one thing that you could bet on in this game is the disposal markets. And we love disposal markets here Behind the Boundary, but it's a hard thing because when we record the podcast, Source, it's a Wednesday night, it's the day before the round, but it's 3 days before Saturday, it's 4 days before Sunday, and the bookies don't really have many markets out. They've got disposal markets out for tomorrow night's game and some for Friday night games, but on the weekend they haven't put them out yet, so we can't have a look at them yet. But if we see something you like, Source, we'll throw it out on Twitter at Behind the Bound, and we'll pop that into our spreadsheet if we see something we really love.
Yeah, and this is really where you are trying to take advantage of the bookies, because disposal markets early on and goal markets early on is where you can find some absolute value before the bookies shut it down, man. They shut it down. If you're looking for some value, be wary of rookies. Okay, let's be really clear. Harry Sheasel at the moment is sitting $1.23 to get 20 or more. But last week, no one knew who he was. This week, he's going to probably either be not tagged out of the game, but they're a defensive-minded side. 25 is $1.99. So be very careful about just jumping in on a one-game small sample size. I'm going to talk about this in the next game, but look for different aspects where you can get some value. Look at the centre clearances. Look at where inside 50 counts. Look at game-style plays, mismatches, rather than just they got 25 last week. They're sitting at $1 this week. They must going to get them again. Yeah. That's where you can get sucked in.
The other thing is definitely be aware of the 15 plus and the 20 plus disposals. They don't put players in there for a reason. They leave some out. And the odds have been absolutely crunched over the last 3 years. I remember 3 years ago, you could get $1.20 plus for the best player on the field to have 15 disposals, and it was a money-making machine. These days, you've got to be very selective and very picky, and you might not find a same-game multi with disposal markets on the day in a game. So just be wary of the odds. They are quite low, and make sure you find some value before you put something down.
Exactly right. I think there's more value in the individual player over-unders for disposals rather than trying to pick the locked markets at the five disposal intervals. Anyway, let's get on to the Sunday matchups. Pairs, Sydney taking on Hawthorn. $1.08 favourites are the Swans, the shortest odds after their impressive win last week against Gold Coast. Hawthorn, $8 outsiders, minus 39.5 is the line. I think that's really low for a $1.08 favourite. And over under 164.5 pairs. Hawthorn were terrible. Sydney were amazing. They definitely bumped up my power rankings after their performance. How do they fare against the wooden spoon favourites?
Well, Sydney, the game was over very early against Gold Coast, and they weren't even that accurate in front of goal. They could have been up by 10 goals at quarter time with the way they were playing Sydney, and they were super, super impressive. I'm just going to lock something in really early because against Hawthorn here, you're not going to get this line against decent sides later in the year because the line's going to get out to 10 plus goals. So mark my words, later on when they play, a top side like a Melbourne or a Brisbane, the line will be around 60 points. Yep. So minus 39.5 is an absolute bargain here. I'm going to lock it in, and I'm also putting Chad Warner in there for 20 plus disposals just to boost it up to that $2 mark. He had 30 last week. He loves it in the middle, and he gets his handballs. He uses a footy as well. So minus 39, Chad Warner 20 plus disposals, $2 sports bet. I'll take it.
Yeah, Pez, I like that because mine is under a very, very, very similar sort of reign, Pez. I've gone 2-leg same-game multi. I love Sydney in this one. I think that it's an absolute lock. I love the $1.08 because it is enough to be able to bump up the odds, but I love the 39.5 too. And I just sort of, as you were talking then, flicked it through, decided not to put it in, but you are correct. I love that point there that you're not going to get, if Sydney's a top 4 side and they play North Melbourne, West Coast, Essendon later in the year, that's sitting at 50.5. Your round 2, small sample size, 39.5. Absolutely eat that up because they should absolutely pulverise the Hawks who don't want to win. What I've gone with as my second leg is I've gone Errol Goulding with 25 disposals. Last week he got 24. Him on his own is sitting at $2.15, and I think it's value because last year he averaged 3 centre bounce attendees, like he would go there, 3 times a game, and he averaged 19 disposals. On the weekend, he had 14 and only played 78% of the game.
14 centre bounce.
14 centre bounce that he attended. He got 24 last week, and the bookies haven't adjusted it. He had 35 in the preseason. The week before that, in their intra-club game, he had 30. He's going to be playing more in that middle. They want him to use the footy. He is absolutely unbelievable. Jump on this before it adjusts. 25 plus, and it gets you $2.15 on the own. I've put my bonus on it at $2.20.
To put you on the spot there, what is he for 20 plus? Do you have that info with you?
Yep, I can get that up right now. For 20 plus, he is looking at $1.42, which is even better value too.
Wow. There you go. So you'll pop that in with Sydney's line. You have a nice little bet there.
Well, I've only done it for the $2 trying to get over that that mark, and I think that
with the free hit as
all
well.
The metrics sort of hit there, and I think he'll be able to do that, especially with Sydney really leaning into adjusting and looking for going back to the well of youth, trying to find some more players because what they did in the grand final, they realised it wasn't enough, and they need to be able to create something different. So I like that bet, and I think there's a lot of value to be had early on with disposals.
Yeah, we'll see if it comes to fruition.
All right, we will, Pez. Next, we go on to the Essendon taking on... Who are they taking on,
Gold
Pez?
Coast, mate.
Gold Coast. I've just... As you pulled me up on the...
Oh, you changed...
I changed the screen and I forgot that I have a job to do. But Essendon taking on the Gold Coast at $1.53, $2.52 outsiders, the Suns, minus 10.5. The Bombers' favourite, 171.5 is the line. Everyone will be all over the Bombers here. Top of the ladder, 2 in a row. Here comes that finals drought to be broken, Bez.
Yeah, well, if you like the Bombers and you think they're going to win quite easily, there is a great price there at $1.53.
10.5's a good line too.
If you're that way inclined. But this one for me, I can't trust the Bombers. They played a Hawthorn side who were absolutely decimated their own list because they want to get draft picks, and that's going to happen. Gold Coast didn't impress at all, and watching Gold Coast again on the weekend source, I just thought, who are their top 10 players? Like, who is there? Like, you got Jared Witts and Took Miller at the top with, I don't know, Swallows still there roaming around, but they've lost a lot of talent over the years, and I just don't think that those younger players really step up to be in that top 10, and their bottom 6 is just fringe city. So I can't trust the Gold Coast to do anything. They're playing at Marvel Stadium, which we don't know who it's going to suit either. Essendon, if they're serious about doing anything, they should try and get the win here, and I might tip them in my competitions, but I'm definitely leaving this game alone because I've got these two sides very similarly ranked at the start of the year, and Stringer should be back for Essendon, which will help their forward structure, but just stay away from me.
I mean, historically, these are the ones Essendon lose. These are the ones historically that in the last probably 6 years have really frustrated Essendon fans because they're playing a bottom side who, as you said, you can't pick who their top 10 players, you can't pick who their top 15 players are. They're travelling interstate, they're at a home ground. Everything is in Essendon's favour, and they'll come out and drop an egg. And that's why I'm leaving this one completely alone. I mean, I guess if Essendon, the sample size we saw last week, if they're going to be that 7 to 14 team that they're aiming to be, then yeah, they should thump the Gold Coast, and -10, you snap that up. But I can't trust Essendon at all. Round 2, top of the tables, they're talking. No chance am I touching this game. Am I leaning anything? That is an absolute leave, Pez.
Yeah, so not even later in the weekend you might be tempted by anything?
Nope.
There we go.
Sunday I will be packed up, just counting the green pennies from all my wins, Pez.
Oh, does that mean the next game might be a leave, the West Coast and GWS?
No, because I've already locked that one in for a guaranteed profit. All right, let's get into the West Coast.
Guaranteed.
GWS. $2.05 outsiders are the West Coast Eagles. $1.80 favourites are the GWS Giants. -2.5 is the line. The over-under, 165.5, Pez. Who's going to win this one? Last game of the round. That graveyard shift Sunday night as you're prepping all your work for the week, that late night, having a little bit of slapdash dinner, footy's on in the background. It's a great time slot.
Oh, 6:20. Yeah,
I love it.
Dinner just finishes. Other people might not like it, and the wives around who are, but the blokes who
what's
have
another show that's on, like Better Homes and Gardens or Mavs or one of those crap Sunday night things. The Block.
Better
The
Homes
Block
and
used to be
Gardens
on there.
usually on Friday night, isn't it? Before the footy, but we're not.
See my associations with TV. I'm like, is it before the footy? Is it late night news?
What do you mean TV? It's just footy. That's all that is on. But this is a hard one, and the bookies don't know who it's going to be either. They've put GWS as favourites just because, they had a win last week. But we said it with Adelaide before. They're travelling after playing in heavy heat on the Sunday. West Coast are going to be back in front of their fans after being embarrassed by North Melbourne. Are those premiership players and older statesmen on that list actually going to stand up and stand for something for that West Coast jumper? Because if not, they might as well just pack up and leave and retire because they got their premiership in 2018. Now, that's 5 years ago. You've got to stand for something. You've got to put some heart into it. You're playing at home now. You've sooked the last 4 years going and travelling to the Gold Coast and travelling away from home. Been an absolutely horrible side. Are they going to show anything? They've got the talent there. GWS do as well. Might be a few injuries. We'll wait and see the team lists for this one. But just leaving at the moment, I don't even have a lean because I do want to see who both sides are putting on the park.
I mean, automatically, I think GWS won this game last week because they were halfway through a game. They had Perriman go down in the first quarter. Lockie Whitfield and Josh Kelly, they're all out. They're all going to probably be out for this game. So it's one of those things that they're not going to have the players there. West Coast, as we've spoken about early on in the year, they're a team that they're rebuilding, but they don't want to rebuild. So this is one of those wins that they can go home. They're in front of their fans. Flying Ryan, he looked absolutely amazing against North Melbourne. He'll get a chance to return home, shake and bake, do some more selling, some candy, kick a couple of nice goals. I actually really like the West Coast Eagles in this one. Again, when you give me a $1.90, an even coin flip, and one team sits about $2, and then I can put it into a same-game multi with a free hit and insurance, why wouldn't I? So what it allows me to do, Pez, I've got my last bonus unit on this one, West Coast plus 20.5. I actually think they win the game, but if they lose the game, they're not getting blown out. There's no way GWS can blow them out. Toby Green's not going to have another 13 shots on goal like he did last week. The West Coast defence is a little bit better than North Melbourne's. And I've gone the under 165.5 because I just don't see where anyone kicks their goals from.
On the bigger ground as well.
So that gives me a bonus unit, $2.40, and I've locked that in.
Yeah, well, you can lock that in for a loss as well anyway. But the other Green as well, he played an absolutely standout
Tom
game.
Green.
Like, he was really good in the first half, Tom Green, and then continued it into the second half when they made their comeback. So we'll see how both these sides sit at the end of it.
We will, Pez. All right, let's get into our cheekies for the round 2.
Cheeky!
Yeah,
Take it away.
I will take it away. So we spoke last week about how we're not really going to be putting any money down on our, our cheekies per se, but we're still going to go through a multi every week and a possibly $5 value cheeky. So Pez, I can see you frantically getting over there and trying to get a $5 up there.
Putting something together.
Putting something together, so I'll take my time. I've gone a 3-league same game multi. I think that I don't think that this is the right play if you're having a punt, because there are no specials out there, and one of those bets loses, you lose all your value. I've gone with the 3 winners that we spoke about, Pez: Geelong, Richmond, and Sydney. I've locked all those in. $2.74 it gets me, and I think that is a 3-leg same game multi. That if you're going to throw your money down,
it's not very cheeky.
It doesn't need to be a cheeky. It just needs to be the multi, Pez. Okay. You're providing the value in the cheeky. Well, so $2.74 punters. That's where you can get your multi this week.
Yeah. Well, here's my little cheeky, and the reason I'm not putting it down is because you're just risking more units, because I'm going to have these down in some way, shape, or form as a single anyway. So I got Geelong to win at $1.60. I didn't put the 1 to 39. I've got Richmond minus 8.5 there, and I've got Sydney, which has already gone out since I put it on, minus 40.5 now. It sits at $1.91 there, but altogether is me $5.71. Bet365, because you get the multiplier on with 7.5% boost, and take that little multi for you.
I don't know if it's good or bad, Pez, but we don't talk about our bets, but we seem to be aligning a lot. That multi is basically identical.
That's why I had a little chuckle.
Is that what you're saying? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we do need to address our the elephant in the room, Pez. The elephant that couldn't get past the first run on the ladder last week.
Yeah,
what happened there?
It was quite disappointing. We had our eggs in one basket with Brisbane Lions. We were right to give them a lead of 3 goals.
We should have just done the halftime.
It was not enough. It might be something for the future, but the overs got up in that game, and in the Melbourne Bulldogs game, the under 203 happened, and the plus 27.5 happened really easily for Melbourne. So we're there and thereabouts. The best thing about the 10K ladder challenge is you go out, you lose $10. So $10 is gone. We'll try and get that back through our next ladder challenge.
Not try, Pez. We'll bounce back. I'm confident. We're Brisbane this week. We're Geelong this week. We're Richmond. We will bounce back. Tell the viewers how they can jump on our round 2 10K ladder challenge by round 12 this time, not round 11. We'll have 10K. What's our first? First/second leg.
Those listening to the ladder challenge, here is our ladder challenge, and this is the bet we'll get on for round 2. We're very confident in Richmond, so we've gone Richmond head to head at $1.60, and we've combined that with an alternate under in the Western Bulldogs St Kilda game, under 184.5. So it sits at 162.5 from the bookies. So we've boosted that up 22 points. Gone the under. By itself, it gets $1.26. But together, it's $2.07 if you boost it on Neds. So we'll put the $10 on that. We'll return $20.70, and we'll roll it into round 3.
Yeah, it's always good to get the poor performance out early, Pez, and come back the second week. Bang, get our eye in, and now we know that's guaranteed. That one, I like that one.
Get around the 10K ladder challenge, and if you didn't like having that little loss last week, you do your own little challenge, send it in, and we'll have a look at yours.
Yeah, we had a lot of bets sent through, Pez, and none that were any good, but...
Why, did you send bets to yourself or something? You accidentally airdropped it to your computer?
That's a little bit rough there. There's no need for that. But make sure you jump on all of the good podcast providers. Tell your friends about us. Give us 5 stars and chuck us some feedback in there. Talk about how great the show is or how poor the show is, what we need to improve on. It helps other punters to be able to find us. You know, when you search AFL bets in podcast, we're sitting about number 7 at the moment, so we can... help everyone else by sharing the page, hitting 5 stars, and making sure you leave a comment for us.
Yeah, loving all the comments on TikTok, so keep them coming. At Behind the Bound everywhere. Best of luck with your bets this week. Round 2, big, huge round of footy coming up. I've been Pez. Peace out.
I'm still Sauce. We'll catch up next time, guys.